Hello, test, test, test. So, it's been a while. I didn't make the live streaming, so I've been going around different. Try to get more experiences on different job and try to think about what's the best for my student because I want to go out there. Just like before, you can teach. You actually need to know what the become the expert there in the subject. Like I try to be good at a subject, become the subject master expert. So before, I think what can I give you? Okay, so this is gonna be another streaming video that I'm gonna put just to basic JSON for today. So we're not going to get into like crazy about what is the best application out there. Okay, we're going to go into that later, but today I'm going to just talk about simple JSON. Okay, so and we're going to use Java. Okay, so let me just start the Java class and JSON file here. So let's create Java class, and I'm going to make an objective here because say JSON reader. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm streaming. Sorry, my kid is disturbing a little bit, but I'm streaming, but you probably don't know. Take the phone, I'll show you. Bring the phone. I can switch. Yeah. All right. So come back here. So what we're gonna do, okay? Today we're going to just first learn how to read. Right. Learn how to read JSON file. Okay. With Java. And why do we need to do this? So a lot of time we exchange information between different devices, and JSON is the key, okay, to exchange data. Now, if you want to make it easy to exchange the data, then we use JSON. So let's take a look at JSON. So we're going to create a new file here. Okay, this is going to be a simple text file here. So let's name, I'm going to name like the name of person. Okay, family.json. So I'm going to just use an example of my family. All right, so we're going to create a JSON named family.json. Let's look at the basic of JSON. So let me give you an overview of JSON first before we create JSON. So this is a JSON. You use the curly braces, right? And then this is the attributes and the values, like the name of the person. John has the age 31 years old, and John lives in New York City. So this is just basic JSON. So that's what we're going to create here. So we're going to create the open curly braces, and then we're going to say name as an attribute. And now we're going to say Teresa. Okay, so that's my daughter name, and we're going to say age. Okay, maybe age is not good, it's always stay the same. So date of birth is a bit better because when you record the age, next year age is going to 8, but when you record date of birth, then that's always going to change. So this should be a date object, okay, in Java. But at this point, I put in the double quote, so we're going to see this is going to be the date of birth as a string. Double quote is like a string like text like Tanisa. Alright, so let's make it simple. I'm going to create another set of data. So first one we have Tanisa, right? And now we're going to create another set of data. In my family I have Tanisa and I have Taryn. So let me create another set. So I use curly braces here to group it. And we're gonna make the same thing here. I'm going to just copy this too. And we name Taryn. So birthday September 9th 2000. So this is 2012. She's 8 years old. 2008. Okay. He's going to turn 12 next month. So now I have JSON. So let's verify if the format is correct. Okay, because something wrong around here. So when you create JSON, so this is just one object, right? One name. So let's look at the syntax of JSON. So we talk about JSON first. So attributes and the values, right? So we put in the curly braces as the set, right? Now, if I want to have more than one, so let's look at another example of JSON. Let's look at names.json as example. So you can have the square bracket and place of the name here, right? That's another example. So let's look at more JSON. I want to see group of names. Okay. Because we want to do a group, there you go, an example. So we have curly braces. So probably we're missing this part, right? To make an array or a group, right? So that's what we need. So let's say children. So we can do children as the group, and then this is the list of children in here. Okay. Now looks like it's in the list of children here. I'll need to put quotation for the name too, double quote. Just like this, right? With a column, date of birth, let's try that, name, and the same quotation for DOB, date of birth. Alright, so now we're going to create Java to read this JSON. So Java have JSON parser. So this is a class that we use this to read an object in. So we create a JSON parser object equals to new JSON parser. So we can read the file, okay? So let's look at an example code how to. We normally going to do type cache and read the file here. So we're going to use the example code for JSON parser. So this is JSON parser. This is a library here. So this is part of the JSON stream. Okay. So we call new string reader. So let's look at another example. JSON parser Java read JSON file. How to read JSON object from file. So this is an example. So I create JSON parser. Now we're gonna have to read it from the file, which we have to put in a try catch statement. Because sometimes if the file doesn't exist, then it's going to catch an error and throw out and display the error. So now we already have parser right here. We create an object and do parser.parse. Technically, it's just reading the file, new file reader. So that's what we try to do here. All right. So let's come back and do that. Okay. So now this one I'm going to name it as the parser instead. Okay. So now we need to make sure you see the error here because we're not importing right JSON parser in yet, so it's part of the library. So normally we gotta check where is it coming from. It should be coming from JSON org.json.simple. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna call import org.json.simple. It's just a little bit slow. Dot parser first, and then dot JSON parser. All right, so let's see if this part of the library here. So it looks like JSON parser here. The library, we couldn't find the library here. So let's see what we're gonna do. We have to make sure this is part of the library first if we can use this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to maybe I need to download the library here or set up. So let's say json.simple parser, JSON parser here. This is a JSON parser. So let's see the version that I have on the JDK. Java build pad. So JDK 0.8. But it doesn't know what is this package is. So this is java.lang org.json org.json.simple. Oh, spelling here. Alright, org.json. Make sure the spelling is correct to .simple.parser, JSON parser. Alright, so it doesn't look like I understand the org.json.simple.parser. So it looks like it's part of the Java library, but now let's figure out why Eclipse did not recognize that. Okay, I keep giving an error here. So this could be under this GitHub, right? Java DAO. Okay. Let's look at JSON. I'm going to do, let me verify something. Read JSON file Java. So this is another example of JSON file. And they should be able to use org.json.simple.parser. Maybe what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this whole setup import, okay, because we think we will need them, and just paste. Okay, now the problem is same, the org.json is the problem. It's not recognizing it. Probably something that I need to set up. Alright, so let me see what is going on here. So Eclipse does not recognize org.json file. So it's about the JSON library in the Eclipse workspace. So need to set up the build path. Okay. So let me download this. Alright, so let me check out on my download folder. So I just download the library here, and then we're gonna go to build path and configure the build path. Okay, and add external libraries. So that was the missing piece, so that's why JSON not gonna work. Alrighty, so here this is the one I just downloaded. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna extract this. Okay, so we got extract to, normally I used to have the jar folder, okay, to definitely keep all the jar. Alright, so now we have this JSON.jar. So I'm going to copy this path and go back to Eclipse, and I need to add the library to this. Build path, add external. Okay, so this is an external jar or the library here. Okay, now we have this. All right, so let's set up the check, okay, as part of the build of compile here. All right, so now I'm going to check why it still have an error right there. So this is part of the library here. So this technically should come from org.json right here. You can see. So it looks like the library. I didn't see that simple. Let's try to verify first. Oh, yeah, this is different package. No simple. Okay. So we'll remove that out. Let's see, we have the parser then. It doesn't look like we have parser from this one. We probably need another library that has the simple parser. Alright, so all.json.simple. So JSON.jar is not in the path. We need to get that in. Adding the JSON dependencies. If you use the Maven project, that's how you do. So you can also download it here. Okay. So let's download this. Yeah, JSON simple. It looks like the right one right there. So see where's the download right here. Same, I'm gonna put it in my jar folder. Alright, so now we can go back to Eclipse and put it as the package. Go to build or add right. So we add a JSON simple. Now I should be able to go back and put simple. Let's undo it. There you go. So now we have the JSON simple to do the work. So we have the JSON library now. So now we can go back into the business here. So first, like we try to read from the JSON file, right? The one that we just created earlier. So trial, what we try to do, try catch, we try to read, and if there's a problem, then we're going to catch the problem. We're going to make a generic exception for now. Okay, so if there's a problem, it's going to bring out what type of problem, right? System.error, the error, .print, still print line, and I'm going to do e.get message. All right, so what we try we try to read from the file, right? So we use the object. Let's review a little bit here. So we create object and we use parser.parse, right? New file reader and the location where you put your JSON. Okay, and then after that, we just cast the object to be a JSON object. All right, so we call obj parser, which is the JSON parser instance that we have on line 13. Read JSON, we call parse, right? And then we're going to do file reader from file, right? And we're going to specify the file name. In this case, we name it as family.json. Now we're going to read Taryn and Tanisa in here. Alright, so now let's verify file reader. We should not have to create, we're going to use something from the library. So we have to do new, so that was the instance. We put new instance. So import, right, from the java.io and equals to the object. So now we read family.json now become an object, right? So once it's become an object, then it's now in Java already. So Java can technically, we want to cast this object first into JSON object, right? So JSON object is part of the library that we just import. So JSON object, and we just call what's a good name? JSON object, okay. Like this one called, yeah, I know we do the same JSON object with the lowercase. Equals to the object that you just read in, we cast it. So now we have a JSON object. Now we try to get. So now we have an attribute, right? So I'm going to make this into 2 windows. Then we can see. We're going to read in. This is the whole JSON object that we're reading. And this is an array of children. So we technically need to have a JSON array. Okay, so we're going to get children. Okay. And this is going to be a JSON array. Or an array, right? Because there are more than 2, right? Tanisa and Taryn, that's why a group is an array. So we just call JSON array equals to, we probably need to make sure spelling is correct, children. And we need to cast to JSON array or not. Let me verify this. Okay, it looks like we could do just this one, right? We cast to JSON array. We do something like this because cars, right, have more than one car. Looks like an array has a group like here. We have to set up name. So the first one is just get name. So let's just start with the the name first and see what happens. Okay, like without using the JSON array. Okay, so we're going to do just JSON object.get, and it's a string. So I'm going to comment this line out, and we're going to call about JSON object.get, and the first attributes we call name, right? So like at first I was trying to group it like this, right, with two groups, right? So let me modify this a little bit, because we're not going to use array. We're going to try to just do simple reading in first to see if it's working, right? We have to set up data, right? We're going to separate them by comma, right? Just like this, separate by comma. So, and then we use the square brackets instead. Okay, the attribute still need the comma, right? So alright, so that looks better. No squiggly red line to tell the problem. So now we read in, we have to cast to string. This is the name, string, and this is, we're going to create a string, right? Name, and we're going to print out. Let's test if we can read in system.out.print the name. Alright, so let's run this program and see if it's working. Okay, so we catch exception. So it's a family.json. You see, this run and catch into this part. That's why it's run an error, red error. So it couldn't find the family.json. So first check the spelling, family.json. Second, if it's, where is it? Okay, so it's in different, if it's in the same location. So let's open with, go to the location. I'm going to go to properties. I'm going to match to location. JSON reader is inside the location. So one way to just test this real quick, I'm just going to copy this path and I'm going to put it here. Alright, so now in Java, you probably need to, instead of backslash, we're going to do forward slash for the path. Alright, now let's test again. I just give it an absolute path. Okay, then it's found a file. Now there's another error. Say JSON array cannot be cast to JSON object. So this is a JSON array that we're looking at. This is an array. So we're going to change this to JSON array, because it's a group of data here, right? Alright, so now we got a JSON array. So now when you deal with JSON array, technically you need to iterate through this, right? So we are using an iterator. It's part of the Java correction. And we have to import. Okay. So Now we're going to have to iterate. So how to use iterator? We have to use a loop while iter dot has next. So it's going to keep looping. Alright, so how do we get this into iterator? So it's in the JSON. I'm going to name Json Array instead. It's in that. Alright, so now we need to put this JSON array into the iterator. So we just do dot iterator. Alright, so let's review code a little bit. So this one is going to keep a type because this is a generic type. So in this case, we can do a type as a string also. Because we have string here. Alright, so now let's keep reading. Then we don't need this at this point. Now we're going to print out what we have read, right? Alright, so we're going to go into each object and print it out. Alright. This one just gone. Keep doing the next one. Okay. Array. Json array. This is casting. Okay, let's run this. Cannot be cast object to string. That makes sense because this whole thing is an object. Alright, so we have to each of this that we read in is now an object. Alright, so this is a JSON object actually. Alright, so we have JSON object. Let's just run and see what happens. There you go. So we're able to read in JSON object. And we have the bird, name, and so on, right? Up to set of children into Java. And now the next step, we need to store this into a Java object called, let me create a class named children that has two attributes, which is name, string type, and we're going to use date for DOP. Alright, date, we need to import the date Java util. And now we're going to create a constructor, getter, setters, and toString. So I'm going to use the generators to do that. And we create toString. We're going to create a constructor. Alright, so this is a children object. Now date, let's look at date a little bit. So the type that we read in is actually string. So we read in the string and we're going to create a date from the string. So in Java we have simple date format. Let's see. Right, so this is from the date object to the string. So when we read in JSON look at it as a string, but we want to change the string to an object. We have to use parse right here. So this is what we need. Okay, simple date format. Then we can store the string from JSON into the date object in Java. Alright, so now the constructor here need to change a little bit because but we want date object that is correct. But when you read in, when you do set the date, we need to have two type of setters. Let me just put this here for now. And we're going to use the set DOB default overriding with the string type. And now we get a string in. Simple date format. We also need a pattern. We have to set a pattern to be year, month, day. So I'm going to make a pattern into the same format as this. So let's use dash, month, day, year, right? Instead of slash, use that format. And then we should change month, day, and year right here. And now we have that. And then this part we just do DOB because we read it. And then we have the date, which is set a simple date format dot parse. This one need to surround with try catch. And this has to be inside. 1 second. This has to be inside the try catch. Alright, so now we're going to create Java object with that. And another way we can do another constructor by using string. So set this part I will have to use a set DOB. Because this is a string DOB. Okay. So now we have the Java object. So we can test that. So once we read in, we want to create a Java object right here. So we will say new children we can create an array of children. So let's do that. An array of children object equals to new an array. So we're gonna do, let me just make a array list of children then, or I'll just do an array. And let's just set it to 10 for now. Like, plan to have 10 kids. New, we want to create an array. So this could be the reason I want to do array list is because it's more dynamic. Let's use array list then. You don't have to worry about specifying an index. Like an array list of is the type as children. Equals to new array list. Then import this to use. Alright, children. Now we have that. We can start to add the right children into our Java object. I mean the list of children. Alright, new children. We have the constructor already. So what we need is the iter dot get. Now how are we going to get into the name and DOB level? Iterator dot next first. Okay, then you get some object and then dot get with the name. So that's the first part. Iter dot next get JSON object dot get. The second part is the DOB. So we create two objects. One, I mean, it's just reading in 127, one tearing. Let's see. Let me verify my constructor. We don't need this one. Children string 2. Okay, I have to cast this to string. That's actually a problem because just see as object what you read in. Alright. I still can leave that. That should not be a problem. So let's run now. So it's almost done. Last thing is I want to print out a list to make sure the object has been created, and the list should display the JSON right here. So let's print out the list of children. So system dot out dot print y. So let's print array list first and see what happens. So array list is null. Okay. So we have an empty. Let's do it right now in here. Print we add the new children into the list. The next question is, first, we're not getting Terran. Second, why is it printing null? Alright, so let's run this to see at least we get Terran in. We get Tanisa. So we're gonna check what happened to the JSON object. So we have Json Array, the list of the objects. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna print the size of the iterator to see how many is reading in. I'll just do toString so we can see everything from the iterator. Looks like we only have Tanisa. Let's look in. So this is comma. So doesn't look like Tarin wants to get into the Java here. Family.json, we have Json Array. Json Array.iterator. Okay, let's verify the code a little bit. So start out with the object, read in the file family.json, and now that object happens to be an array of JSON because this is an array with a bracket here, square bracket mean array. So we change this object to be JSON array, and we need to iterate through each of this to get it set up like list of the JSON object. That's why we call JSON object. And we're just going to search for if it has the next one. Then we keep reading in. We print. Let's print the next. So it's going to print the first one, which is Tanisa. And if we still have the next one to print, it's going to keep printing, but it doesn't look like. Let me modify this JSON to test a little bit. I'm going to add the third kid. Let's say Nicholas. Okay. Let's just run this again. Alright, so there's an error here on the file itself. So it's still getting only Tanisa here. It's not reading the next set. Alright, so let's revise. So if I have volts in Toyota, an array, so this should be able to print the whole array out for each course. Let's see, this one we use we call Iter as in iterator, and print out the iterator, but we see it's only have the Nisa. So let me try to modify this part a little bit to see what happens. So we have Json Array, and now I'm not going to use the while at this point. I'm going to change this to for. Do we get Json Array first? Yes. So I have Json Array, and I'm missing one piece here. Let me rename this to be kits. Right, so this is an array of kits. Not here, but happen to be here. Kits. Now this part I'm going to get use.get. So this is the missing piece, I think. I'm going to find a problem. So if I use the iterator back, like here when you read the object, so first this is JSON. Let me go back to the history that it was working. I recall it was working. Iterator. You can use the local history to compare to your previous code that you have changed before you make changes. I think this version was a working version. So let me just replace it and try to run again. Yeah, because I think we were testing it was reading fine. Yeah, we can get both Tenisa and Tarin right there, right? Tarin and Tenisa. Let's review the code a little bit. System.print out of print picture. Dot to string. They want to give me information. I want to see what in the iterator. This one print. Probably want to print the when you do print, we create an object new student. Oh, because of this dot next again. I think first the iter next give you Tenisa. Let's see if I comment this out. This time is not creating any object. Okay, interesting. So now let's do the debugger that we understand. We got set up the Docker point and run the bugs here. And we're gonna watch, okay, what inside the iterator. Add to watch. Size 3. Okay. So it's the mid 3 of them in the iterator. Now when we say has text, I want to see what do we get from that. True, okay, it has more to go. Now when we see dot next, we will watch what's that. You can watch for the shooting. So that's nothing in here. Okay, so we go do step. Looks like we got in trouble. Okay, so we get a Nicholas here. because we have 3 kids. So everything looks fine here, right? So it's first start to do iter.next and print the Nicholas. And then exit. Okay, so we will have to come back because my wife just called me to do things. I'm sorry.